Hi everyone, my name is Corey Dow, and I'm a technical marketing engineer with HP Aruba Network Switching. Today we're going to cover AOS-CX 10.14 1000 update, the firmware site distribution CLI feature. Okay, so let's get into the details about what this feature provides. So this is the feature, again, is the firmware site distribution CLI. And what it does, it allows firmware distribution with like switches of the same platform. So as you can see in this topology diagram, we have three 6300 switches. And what we want to do is to be able to download a software image only once from the internet and then apply it to a seed device and then have downstream devices be able to acquire that switch image from the seed device without having to go out to the internet to get that. Prior to 10.14 1000, we did have this feature available, but only with the API. And now with 10.14 1000, we've covered it up with the CLI or added the CLI option as well. So as I mentioned, the CLI command is now available and it allows you to securely download the switch images from a seed device of the same platform using HTTPS with MTLS. So for example, between two 6300 platforms and two 8325 platforms, but not between a 6300 and an 8325 device. It supports up to 3 concurrent downloads from the seed device and supports any named VRF for the HTTPS server seed device. And so some notes here. So the 6300L platforms only support management and default VRS. And it listens on TCP port 9443, and this is not configurable. And you're also able to specify either the primary or secondary flash locations vended from the seed device. And so the use cases are fairly obvious: a site-wide distribution of switch images across the networking infrastructures. And then the benefits are the customers only need to download the image once, thereby preserving bandwidth to external networks. And it's mostly been requested by retail and transportation verticals. And for platform support, all CX platforms now with 10.14 1000 except for the OVA virtual switch. And now we're going to show just a simple demonstration about how this feature works. So in the demo topology, all we have is a couple switches, 6300-1 acting as a seed device and 6300-2 acting as a client device, pulling images from the seed device. And to illustrate that we can run both over the default and a custom VRF, we've got that configured in the demonstration, which you'll see, and just connected via route-only ports, port 1152 on either side. Okay, so as I just showed you in the prior demo topology slide, we just have the two devices, as I mentioned, and connected via port 1152. So we're just going to walk through the configurations of this feature. And you see at the top, I've got the seed device, the 6300S1, and then the client device at the bottom, the 6300C1. And so just showing that we have LLDP connectivity information for each of the devices. And then we're just going to go in. I've configured OSPF on them as well, just to redistribute the local loopback so that we can reach each other just by the simplified, just 1111 and 2.2.2 loopback addresses. And so you see the client device is able to ping the seed device at its loopback address, the 1111, and then in the reverse as well from the seed device to the client device. And so as well, we can see the firmware versions that we have listed here. So again, for using this feature, that you have to have the same platform, but the firmware versions themselves don't really matter, just the location. And so what we're showing here as well is that, so the show HTTP server REST images, if there are any images available for distribution, they'd show up here in this command, but we haven't configured that yet, which is why we don't see anything. We can see that we have the HTTPS server running on the default and management VRFs currently. And then if you go into this shell and look at the sockets that are listing, we only have the 443 port available at this moment. So when we configure this feature, you'll see that the 9443 TCP port goes into a listen state. So we'll see that in a moment. So we've just issued the command, and then right away you can see that we now have images available for distribution. And now if we go into the CLI, or I'm sorry, into the shell, you'll see that that port is now available. And it is. So port 9443 is now listening. And so then from the client perspective, we're just going to go and issue the firmware site distribution CLI command. And you can see the firmware image is primary, just like you see from the location here. You just append that to the end of the loopback address, and then you can issue the command. And you can see here we've issued the command, but the command is showing incomplete. And the reason is just that you do have to specify the VRF. Even if it's a default VRF for this command, you still need to specify that. So you'll see that here in a moment. Okay, so we've activated the firmware site distribution feature here. We're from the client perspective, we're pulling the primary image from the seed device. Okay, so you can see that the command has completed, and we've written the software image to the file system flash. I stripped out just the time that it took, so you can see the total time elapsed was 4 minutes to transfer the image down to the client device. And now what we're doing is just switching the default VRF to VRF1 so we can demonstrate that you can also use a VRF1 or a custom VRF to download the feature as well. And so you can see at the top of the C device, all you have to do is just run the HTTPS server on that custom VRF. And as you can see here, we're selecting the secondary flash image to where to store this image that we're pulling from the C device. In this case, we're pulling the primary image from the C device and placing it in the secondary flash on the client device here using VRF1. And so we'll see this complete. And so again, I just stripped out the time it took. So it took about 4 minutes to download the image from the C device. And that's it for the demo. Okay, I'd like to just thank you for attending this session, and hopefully this has been useful in understanding how the firmware site distribution CLI feature works with 10.14 1000.